What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cap show. We got NCAA football week 11. Really some good games. First and foremost, I want to call an upset alert game to be aware of. It's definitely Purdue at Ohio State. I'm telling you what, Purdue's upset some teams this year. Michigan State, Iowa. Can it be Ohio State yet again this year? This would be crazy. I cannot wait for that game. But, really the teams are kind of separating from the pack, right? Got, teams like Georgia, they're number one. Bama number 2, Oregon number 3, Ohio State number 4, and then Cincy coming in at number 5 in the college football playoff. I think this is great. I do. I just hope Cincinnati is, say if a lot of stuff hits the fan, shit hits the fan, for instance, for Oregon or Ohio State. I do think Cincinnati deserves to be in that 4 spot. I really do. From last year leading up all the way to right now, why not give them a shot? Give them a puncher's chance, stuff like that. But obviously, Georgia right now, they're the best team in the country by far, the best defense, in the top 10 years we've ever seen right now. It's crazy. Since like 2010, I mean, look at Georgia. They've only given up 6 points a game, that defense. So that's amazing. So Georgia's really separating itself. Obviously, Bama's going to be in there as well. But, let me get started with my Fighting Irish. Yes, Notre Dame, baby. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Let's go, Notre Dame. Look, they're in the top 10. Can they make the playoffs this year? Probably not. It's a long shot. It really is. I mean, obviously, Jack Cohn's had a good season this year. 13 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, almost 1,900 yards passing. But the difference maker is their running back, Kyron Williams. He's the difference maker on the ground. 9 touchdowns this year. I think it's going to be all Notre Dame here. I just think Virginia's given up way too many points, 31 points allowed per game. That's really not great. And then Brandon Armstrong, their quarterback, 27 touchdowns, 8 interceptions this year. Yes, he's a great player. He's talented. He's got 3,557 yards passing, 3,557 yards passing, which is crazy, right? I mean, for college, and I understand he's not the biggest school, but Virginia's no duck walk. It's no cakewalk, but I like Notre Dame at 5.5. I think Jack Cohn and Kyron Williams find a way, and I think Coach Kelly has a great game plan for this Virginia team. I really do. I love Coach Kelly. He needs to stay in Notre Dame. I think Coach Kelly will stay until he wins the national championship for Notre Dame. Then he'll probably end up retiring, right? But he definitely has to get that national championship for Notre Dame, dude, or else it's really a disappointing season. It 100% is, but I like Notre Dame at 5.5. Go Fighting Irish. And then we got Cincy versus South Florida. Look, Cincinnati, they do have a weak schedule looking at it from, the big SEC schools. Yes, I get all that. Obviously, the only team that they beat is my Irish, which is really devastating. Desmond Ryder, he's got 20 touchdowns this year, only 5 interceptions, 2,121 yards passing, which is crazy. But I think the X factor here is Jerome Ford, their running back. He got hurt last week. He's questionable here. So I would say, at 23.5 for Cincinnati, I would say pump that. Definitely if Ford is out, I would not take that cover. I would definitely take Cincinnati money line, though. I would go money line all day. The 23.5 with their star running back, questionable, who's had 15 touchdowns this game, that is definitely a cause of concern for Cincinnati. But South Florida, Timmy McClain, he's got 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So there's not really much to go off of. But, South Florida's running back is nice. Jaron Mangum. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. But anyway, he's got over 500 yards rushing with 13 touchdowns this year. 13 rushing touchdowns. That's incredible. That's amazing. But, their weakness, South Florida, is their defense, giving up 34 points a game. That is not, dude, that is terrible. 34 points a game. So I love Cincinnati money line all day here. Then we got New Mexico State versus Bama. Bama's 51.5-point favorites. 51.5. Yes, I said that correctly. 51.5, which is crazy. I'll go Bama money line. I just think, 51.5, dude. Like, what the heck? Where did they come up with this number, dude? This is crazy. This is insane. To me, this is just, it's over the line here, okay? Bryce Young, he's got 28 touchdowns, only 3 picks. 2,755 yards passing, which is great. Brian Robinson Jr., he's got 12 rushing touchdowns this year. He's balling out. Look, I like Bama all day here. Like I said, money line. 67 is the over-under. I'd probably go with the over as well. But I love Bama. I mean, New Mexico State's giving up 38 points a game, which is terrible. And they've only won 1 game this year. So, obviously Bama is definitely the clear favorite. I think they have like a 99-point-something% chance of winning this game, which is insane. But, what if something crazy happens? It's not going to happen. I got Bama all day here, money line. Then we got Michigan versus Penn State. Michigan's 1.5-point favorites in this game. Look, this game is big for both teams. It really is. Sean Clifford for Penn State, 16 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions this year, over 2,300 yards passing. And then his favorite target, Dotson, he's got 932 yards receiving and 9 touchdowns. I think they got to get them going. I think Dotson's going to have a star game to really be in this game and win. So, you know what? I'm going to go with the upset in Penn State. I think Michigan's going to get upset here. They're going to Penn State. Penn State is a tough place to play. We saw Auburn this year lose there. So, you know, I really do think that. Hassan Haskins, their star running back, he's got 11 touchdowns this year, 829 yards rushing as well on top of that. But Michigan's weakness, you know, really is their secondary. It is. We saw against Michigan State, they gave up 37 points a game. Now, it wasn't all their defense, but a lot of it was. But, you know, obviously Michigan, they're really high-powered on offense, 36 points a game, to whereas Penn State's only averaging 27 points a game. But if we're going by the numbers and by the book, definitely go Michigan here. But I like the upset. I like Penn State because of Dotson. I think he's the difference maker. He's going to have to really exploit Michigan's double team and really just go over the top with Dotson. So I like Penn State all day. 48.5 is the over-under. I'll probably go with the over as well in this pick. But I love Penn State with the upset. Then we got Oklahoma versus Baylor. Oklahoma, Caleb Williams, the most surprising player this year, 100%. Last week, he had 6 touchdowns versus Texas Tech, which is crazy. He was the second-string quarterback coming in. Spencer Rattler was the guy. And then all of a sudden, you know what? Caleb Williams filled in for him and hasn't looked back since. I do think Spencer Rattler will transfer at the end of the year somewhere where he's definitely going to play. But I think, you know, Oklahoma, Caleb Williams, he really has his team going. And then Kennedy Brooks, he has 802 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns. But yes, Oklahoma, they've given up 24 points a game. That's one thing I don't like, and I think that's why they're out of the top 5 right now in the playoff rankings, because of their defense, because of how trash they are on defense. It's mind-blowing. And then Baylor, Gary Bohannon, he's got 15 touchdowns, only 5 picks. 1,967 yards passing. Then Abraham Smith, he has over 1,000 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns, which is crazy. I think Baylor upsets Oklahoma if Gary and Abram really have a breakout game, meaning, you know, playing perfect, 3 touchdowns from Gary, and then Abraham, you know, 2 rushing touchdowns, something like that, because it's going to be high scoring. I would go the over on the 62.5. I would go over definitely, but I like Oklahoma here. I like it. Why? Because I like Caleb Williams. I think he's a difference maker here. I think his ability to really pass in the pocket, also his sneak quickness ability as well. So I love his tenacity, his passion of the game. So I like Oklahoma all day over Baylor. Then we got Mississippi State versus Auburn. Auburn's 5.5-point favorites. I think this game's really a coin flip. Mississippi State, Will Rogers, 23 touchdowns, only 8 picks this year. 3,307 yards passing, which is insane, dude. Over 3,000 yards in one season. That is amazing. And then Malik Polk, he's got 6 touchdowns on 720 receiving yards. But Mississippi State, they've given up 25 points a game. That's not cutting it. That is not cutting it at all. I like Auburn at 5.5. They're playing at home. Now, I wouldn't be surprised with the upset. I do think this is a coin flip game, a 50-50. I really do. But I think Bo Nix, he's going to air it out. 9 touchdowns, only 3 picks. But I expect the X factor here. Tank Bigsby, the running back for Auburn, I expect him to have a breakout game right here. This is the game where it's going to rush for like 3 or 4 touchdowns here. You know, 2 rushing touchdowns, a receiving touchdown, something like that. I think Tank Bigsby's going to have a breakout game. He's got 7 touchdowns this year. I like Auburn over Mississippi State in a close one, a very close one. Then we got Northwestern versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 24.5-point favorites, which is kind of crazy, right? But, you know, Northwestern, they've given up 26 points a game and have only averaged 18 points. So, you know, obviously Northwestern is below 500. They are trash. So I'm going to go Wisconsin money line. The 24.5 to me is way too much. I would go money line Wisconsin. Graham Mertz, 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. I expect him to have a turnaround game. Obviously, he started the season off terribly. You know, we saw him against my team, Notre Dame, throw 5 interceptions, which is sad, dude, which is really sad. But I like Wisconsin over Northwestern because Northwestern's defense sucks. And 41.5 is the over-under. I'll probably go with I want to say over in a lot of these games, but I'll go under on this one. But the bread and butter's the pick, so I definitely go Wisconsin money line over Northwestern. Then we got Utah versus Arizona. Utah's 24-point favorites here, which is, it's nice, right? We have Thomas, their running back. He has 742 yards rushing and 14 touchdowns. I mean, dude, if Tyvon Thomas really goes off, which he's likely to do, it's going to be Utah all day here over Arizona. And then Cameron Rising, he has 12 touchdowns, only 2 picks for Utah. Will Plummer for Arizona, he's got 2 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He was listed as questionable, then he's probably going to play, but I'm thinking, why start this kid? You know, he's got 2 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, dude. It's just not adding up right. You know, it's really not. You know, they're only averaging 16 points a game. I think bringing the sub, the second or third string over Will all day, and then their defense isn't helping either for Arizona. Over 28.5 points allowed per game. That is terrible, dude. That's JV level right there. So I love Utah. You know, the 24 is a little bit sus to me. I like money line a little bit more, so I'd probably go money line. But I want to be mad if you went Utah with the 24. I really want it. I think it's going to be all Utah. 54.5 is the over-under. I'll probably go with the over as well in this pick, but I like Utah over Arizona. Then we got Georgia versus Tennessee. Georgia, Stetson Bennett, 1,412 yards passing, 14 touchdowns, only 4 picks. Zymeer White, 519 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns this year. It's all Georgia. And like I said, only giving up 6 points a game, which is crazy, dude. It's all Georgia. I like Georgia here. At 20, you know, it's kind of disrespect to Tennessee. Why? Because of Hendon Hooker. Their quarterback is definitely legit. He could definitely break out a game and change a game if he plays great. Yes, he has 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions this year. Or actually, he's got 21 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That would be terrible if he only had 2 touchdowns. But 21 touchdowns, 1,894 yards passing. So I think Hendon Hooker, he's going to have a breakout game. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than expected, definitely in the first half. But I expect Georgia to pull away and really go with it. You know, they have Evans on Tennessee, 6 touchdowns this year. But Tennessee's weakness is their defense, giving up 28 points a game. So I think Stetson Bennett and Georgia's going to run all over and pass all over Tennessee. And I think Hendon Hooker will have a good game, but I don't think it's enough to them to upset Georgia. So I like Georgia here. 56 is the over-under. You guys can decide that, but I love Georgia Dogs, the #1 team in the country for a reason, all day in this matchup. Then we got Purdue versus Ohio State. Ohio State's coming to this game 21-point favorites. We saw Purdue this year, upset alert game right here. I'm telling you what, this is the perfect time for Purdue. They're playing great. They just beat Michigan State. They're on a roll. They're on a heater. So you know what? This might be an ignorant pick, but I'm going Purdue here. I think O'Connell, he's going to have a great game, over 2,000 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, only 8 picks. And then the X factor for Purdue is definitely David Bell from the Indy area, over 1,000 yards receiving this year and 5 touchdowns, which is insane, dude. He's a baller, dude. I like him. I think they're going to spread it out against Ohio State and throw it on Ohio State. That's how you're going to have to beat Ohio State. But C.J. Stroud, he's got 2,675 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, only 5 picks. And then Traylon Henderson, he's got 937 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. They're averaging 45 points a game. I think Purdue upsets them here if they put pressure on C.J. Stroud and really upset that offense, right? I'm not really concerned about Purdue's offense. Yes, they can put up numbers on anybody. We saw that against Iowa. We saw that against Michigan State. So I think, you know, Purdue's definitely, they got talent there. So we can't just say, oh, Ohio State's just way better. It's over. No. Purdue has talent on both sides of the football. They really do on offense and defense. But I think the X factor for Purdue to win is definitely David Bell. If he has a couple receiving touchdowns, I think he could be in this game and really upset Ohio State. But it's probably going to happen that Ohio State's going to win this game. And I'm not going to be mad if I'm wrong with this pick. But I'm definitely going with the upset. 63.5 is the over-under. I'll probably go with the under. But I love Purdue with the upset over Ohio State. But Ohio State will probably win. But I don't like Ohio State. I don't. So I'm going with Purdue. Boilermakers all day here from Indiana. I'm from Indiana, so it makes sense. Purdue all day. And then we got Minnesota versus Iowa. Iowa's 4.5-point favorites. Spencer Padres, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions this year. Tyler Goodson, 6 touchdowns on 754 yards rushing. I think he's going to get in that groove again. I think Goodson's going to have a great game, but I'm going with the upset. I'm going with Minnesota over Iowa. Tanner Morgan, 1,357 yards passing with 6 touchdowns, yes, and 7 interceptions. Why am I going with Minnesota? I think the difference is Trey Potts, their running back. He's got 6 touchdowns this year. It doesn't seem like a lot, but a lot of these games is, dude, his offensive line isn't, doing their job sometimes. So I think this is the time where Minnesota steps it up, and I think Trey Potts and Tanner Morgan have a big game here and stop Iowa. So I love Minnesota all day. 37 is the over-under. Seems a lot low. It really does. So I'll probably go with the over. I mean, 37, I get it. This is probably going to be a low scoring. That's what they're expecting. But I just, looking at it, dude, that's a touchy thing right there. The over-unders are so hard sometimes, and they can be easy, but I like Minnesota with the upset all day here. Then we got Maryland versus Michigan State. Maryland is really trash. They've given up 30 points a game. 30 points, dude. That is terrible. Peyton Thorne, 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, over 2,100 yards passing. And then Kenneth Walker. I think he's the leading Heisman right now. He's got 15 touchdowns, 1,330 yards rushing. We saw the game against Michigan, 5 touchdowns. That was the Heisman moment for me right there. And he had a good game last week against Purdue, like 136 yards rushing, and I think a touchdown, maybe even 2. So I think, Kenneth Walker's going to do his thing. I think it's Michigan State and their defense and everybody else to do their job. But I like Michigan State all day here. Like I said, they were upset by Purdue last week. I think they're going to rebound. I'll take Michigan State at home with the 12. I like that pick. So it would be surprising if Maryland does upset them, but I like Michigan State all day. Then we got Texas A&M versus Ole Miss. This game right here is a tough game. This game is definitely one of those coin flip games as well. Isaiah Spiller for Texas A&M, 873 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns. I think Matt Carroll for Ole Miss is definitely an X factor here. 16 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, 2,527 yards passing. He also has 116 carries, dude, on 528 yards rushing and 10 rushing touchdowns. I think Ole Miss wins this game if Matt plays great. And if the Ole Miss defense puts pressure on Texas A&M's quarterback, Zach, I really do. He's got 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions this year. But I like Ole Miss. I really do, which is bold. This is a really bold pick because we saw Texas A&M be battle-tested this year. Yes, they lost to Arkansas in a close game, but I think Texas A&M, we saw them upset Bama this year after all, which was a crazy, crazy odds, dude. Like, insane, dude. So if you guys picked A&M versus that Bama game, you guys would have got paid out thousands upon thousands, dude. Actually, a sports bettor had like a 4 or 5 game parlay, and that was his last parlay to hit was the Bama Texas A&M game to win $1.5 million if Bama won that game, and they lost. So he lost the whole bet. Lost it all off like 30 racks, which is crazy, right? But I like Ole Miss. 57 is the over-under. You guys can decide that, but I like Ole Miss with the upset here. I wouldn't be surprised if A&M wins because they've been playing nice, but I like Ole Miss here. Then we got NC State versus Wake Forest. Wake Forest is 2-point favorites. Sam Hartman, 27 touchdowns, only 5 picks this year. 2,873 yards passing. Look, I like Wake Forest in this matchup. I get it. NC State, they did beat Clemson this year. Devin Learney, he's really nice. 2,475 yards passing with 25 touchdowns, only 3 picks. I do think NC State will come to play, and this will be a competitive game. But I like Wake Forest here. Jaquari Robertson, he's got 848 yards receiving and 8 touchdowns for Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest is going to throw the ball out here with Sam Hartman, as they should. 27 touchdowns is no joke this year. I like Wake Forest. We saw them get upset last week versus North Carolina, but I think they're going to rebound here. I like Wake Forest at 2 all day. Then we got Arkansas versus LSU. Arkansas, KJ Jefferson, 16 touchdowns, only 3 picks, over 1,800 yards passing. And then Traylon Burks, he's got 799 yards receiving and 8 touchdowns. Look, they're giving up 24 points allowed per game for Arkansas, which isn't too good. But I do think KJ Jefferson is due for a big game. I do think Arkansas is going to upset LSU at LSU, right? Max Johnson is good, 22 touchdowns, 6 picks. But I think, LSU's weakness, as has been all year, is their defense, giving up 28 points a game, dude. I think KJ Jefferson and Traylon are going to have a really big breakout games against LSU, exploit that defense. But I think this is going to be a really close game, though. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I think it's going to come down to the wire. But I like Arkansas at 2.5. 59.5 is the over-under. That might change to 59 or even 60 or 58, somewhere around there. But I'd probably go with the over because both defenses are kind of weak. But I see this being really competitive, so I'd probably go with the under. I really would, but I like KJ Jefferson and Arkansas to win this game. I like Arkansas all day. Then we got TCU versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, 12-point favorites. Spencer Sanders, he's got 13 touchdowns, 6 picks this year. Jalen Warren, he's got 7 touchdowns on 928 yards rushing. I think it's going to be all Oklahoma State here. Yes, TCU is going to make this a competitive game. Matt's Duggan, he's got 14 touchdowns, only 4 picks this year. I just think, Oklahoma State, they've been battled this year. They've only had one loss, and really that loss, they could have won that game if they didn't defeat themselves. So I like Oklahoma State here. I think Ward and Spencer Sanders are going to have a breakout game, so I like Oklahoma State all day here. Then we got Washington State versus Oregon. Oregon is 14-point favorites. This is a game where Oregon needs to just blow them out. You guys are in the playoffs. If the playoffs started today, you guys are number 3 team in the country, so you guys shouldn't beat Washington State by only like 7 or 14 points. You guys should beat them by 24 plus, dude. You guys are in the top 4 right now, dude. You guys have the ticket right now, so I don't want to see Oregon blow it, which I don't think they will. Anthony Brown, 11 touchdowns, only 4 picks, 1,895 yards passing. And then Travis Dye, 820 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns. Yes, I will say Oregon's weakness throughout the years been their secondary, giving up 22 points a game. Washington State isn't too well either. They're giving up 25 points a game. Jaden DeLore, he's got 17 touchdowns, only 7 picks, 1,967 yards passing for Washington State. I do think he's going to have a breakout game, but I like Oregon here. I'll take the 14. I expect Oregon to win by way more than 14. If you guys are the top 3 in the country right now, there's no excuse for you guys to lose, or even win by a field goal or something like that. So I expect Oregon and Anthony Brown to really come out and showcase this game overall. So I love Oregon all day, baby. I love college football. You just don't know who's going to win, right? There's a lot of coin flip games, but obviously my upset pick of the week, I would say, yes, I'm more betting with my heart on this one than my mind, but definitely Purdue over Ohio State. I think Purdue's been more battle tested than Ohio State. I understand that sounds crazy. Yes, Ohio State lost to Oregon earlier this year, but I think Purdue beating Michigan State and beating Iowa right there, that just shows me, dude, they can really beat Ohio State on a good day. They have to play great. They do. I think, the quarterback has to play great. David Bell has to play great. So, Purdue, they definitely have their hands full, but I like the upset pick, baby. Let's go. My Fighting Irish go to Virginia. They should win. They're in the top 10. Will they make the playoffs? Probably not. That's just the reality of it, but at the end of the day, Brian Kelly's winning 10-plus games this season, so keep Coach Kelly. The championship will come sooner than later, within this decade, before 2030, baby. Let's go! It's the Cloud with Cam Show!